Maria had always considered herself a resilient and adaptable woman. After her marriage to Michael, she embraced the role of a stepmother to his teenage son, Alex, with open arms and an open heart. In her early 40s, Maria still carried the air of a woman much younger, her life filled with the vibrant chaos of balancing a career in real estate with her family duties. Alex, 17, was a typical high school student on the surface, passionate about video games, with a burgeoning interest in digital art. He was tall for his age, with a lankiness that suggested he was still growing into his frame. His relationship with Maria had always been cordial, though a certain distance remained, perhaps due to the shadow of his biological mother, who had left when he was just a child. The house they lived in was a quaint suburban home, not too far from the bustling downtown of their small city. Maria had taken great care in making the home a welcoming space for Alex, hoping to bridge the gap between stepmother and stepson with warmth and understanding. Yet she often found herself pondering over Alex's withdrawn moments, those long hours he spent locked away in his room, his eyes often harbouring a depth she couldn't quite understand. It was during one of their rare dinners alone, with Michael away on a business trip, that Alex first mentioned his desire. "I've been thinking about setting up a studio in the basement," he said hesitantly, pushing his food around the plate. "I want to work on my art, really give it a go." His eyes had a certain spark, a flicker of genuine enthusiasm that Maria hadn't seen in a long time. Maria was pleased. "That sounds wonderful, Alex. It's important to have a space that inspires you," she encouraged, eager to support any endeavour that might bring him out of his shell. But there was something in the way he looked at her then, a flicker of something she couldn't quite place, that made her heart beat just a tad faster, a prelude to the unease that would come to unfold. In the weeks that followed, the basement project became a bonding activity. Maria found herself spending more and more time with Alex, discussing layouts, colour schemes, and the best spots for natural light. During these moments she saw a different side of Alex, one that was creative, meticulous, and strangely intense. However, the comfort and camaraderie developed during these sessions soon took an unexpected turn. As the project neared completion, Alex's requests became more personal, more peculiar. It started with him asking Maria to be the subject of his portraits, an idea she entertained out of encouragement for his artistic expression. But as she sat for him, the atmosphere changed, the air between them thickened, charged with an energy she tried to ignore. One evening, as Maria posed on a makeshift stool under the soft glow of the studio lights, Alex stopped painting. He stared at the canvas, then at her with a heaviness that filled the room. "You know, I've always thought you understood me more than Mom ever did," he murmured, his voice a mix of admiration and something darker, something that made Maria's skin crawl. She smiled nervously, brushing off the comment. "You're very talented, Alex. Your father will be so proud," she deflected, hoping to steer the conversation back to safe waters. But as she rose from the stool, feeling the weight of Alex's gaze, she realized that their relationship was balancing on a precipice. The studio, meant to be a sanctuary for creativity, now felt like a stage set for a play she hadn't agreed to perform in. Maria often found herself marvelling at how quickly time passed when she was with Alex, especially during their weekend painting sessions in the newly minted studio in the basement. What started as a project to foster his artistic talent had morphed into shared afternoons filled with laughter, music, and the occasional pizza, which they would devour between discussions about art techniques and colour theories. Alex's passion for his work was contagious, and Maria couldn't help but feel a surge of pride whenever he completed a piece he was particularly proud of. Their conversations, initially centred strictly on art and school projects, gradually delved into more personal territories. Alex would share stories from his school about friends and teachers, and slowly opened up about his dreams of turning his passion for art into a career. Maria listened intently, always encouraging, always supportive. She shared her own stories too, tales of her first job, her struggles and triumphs in the real estate business, and her lessons from life that she hoped would guide him. The trust between them grew with each shared secret and each shared silence. There was comfort in their routine, a safety in the predictability of their interactions that seemed to calm some of the chaos of daily life. Maria noticed a change in Alex's demeanour during these times. He was more relaxed, more open, and increasingly affectionate, often giving her a hug when she arrived or when she was about to leave the studio. One afternoon, as they were cleaning up after a particularly messy session where they had experimented with acrylic pouring techniques, Alex hesitated, his hands covered in splashes of blue and gold paint. "You know, I'm really glad you're here," he said, his tone more serious than the situation warranted. Maria, wiping her hands on a rag, paused and looked at him, noting the intensity in his eyes. "I mean it," he continued. "You're not just my stepmom, you're like a friend, or maybe even—" His voice trailed off, the end of his sentence hanging in the air, unspoken but heavily implied. Maria felt a twinge of something she couldn't quite place. Was it apprehension? Confusion? She brushed it off with a smile and a light punch to his shoulder. "I'm glad too, Alex. You make these weekends fun," she replied, hoping her light tone would mask the sudden tightness in her chest. But the moment lingered, the look in Alex's eyes a little too intense, a little too revealing. It was the first time she truly noticed it, the subtle shift in his attitude towards her, something she couldn't quite understand but felt unmistakably. As the weeks went on, these moments of intensity became more frequent. Alex would often find excuses for them to work late into the evening, under the guise of finishing a project or cleaning up the studio. He started complimenting her more often, not just on her support for his art, but on her appearance, her smile, the way she laughed. Maria found herself increasingly conscious of his gaze, the weight of his attention, the unspoken tension that started to build in the air around them. Each compliment, each lingering touch, each smile that held a second too long, added layers to their relationship that Maria wasn't sure she was ready to explore. Maria was cleaning up the brushes, the smell of turpentine mingling with the lingering scent of oil paint, when Alex cleared his throat, a little louder than necessary. He had been unusually quiet that afternoon, a thoughtful frown etched across his brow as he dabbed at his canvas. Now he set his palette down with a clatter that seemed to echo in the suddenly too quiet room. "Maria, I've been thinking," Alex began, hesitating as he tried to catch her eye. "There's something I want to try, something different for my next project. It's a bit more personal, you could say." Maria, intrigued, wiped her hands on a cloth and turned towards him. "Oh? What do you have in mind?" She encouraged him to share his thoughts, her interest genuine. It was good to see him passionate about his work, and she was always eager to support his artistic explorations. "It's more of an interactive piece," Alex explained, his eyes lighting up with the spark of creative fervour. "I want to incorporate real-life elements, real emotions. It's something I read about recently, where the artist and the model interact more dynamically. It's quite avant-garde." Maria nodded, her curiosity piqued. "Sounds fascinating. But what exactly do you need from me?" she asked, a slight edge of apprehension creeping into her voice. Alex's projects were usually straightforward, and this sudden shift intrigued, yet unsettled her slightly. Alex took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that made her heart skip a beat. "I would need you to be more involved, not just sitting there, but really participating. I want to capture the essence of emotion, of real interaction between artist and muse." Maria felt a flutter of nerves. This was new territory, a step beyond their usual artist-model dynamic. "I'm not sure I understand. How would this work?" she pressed, needing clarity before she could agree to something so vague. "I want to create a series of pieces that explore the different facets of human emotion: joy, sadness, fear, love. With you as the muse, we could explore these emotions together, see how they play out in real time," Alex said, his voice smooth, persuasive. "I think it could really enhance the authenticity of the work." Maria hesitated, the idea both intriguing and intimidating. Being part of a creative process was one thing, but becoming a living part of Alex's art in such an intimate way was something else entirely. She felt a mix of flattered and scared, unsure if stepping into this new role would change the dynamics of their relationship. Alex seemed to sense her reluctance. "Think about it, Maria. It's a chance to create something truly unique. And I really can't imagine doing this with anyone else. You inspire me," he added, his tone soft, convincing. His compliment, meant to reassure, instead sent a shiver down her spine. Maria paused, considering the implications of his request. The commitment would be significant, and the boundaries between them, already blurring, might dissolve altogether. Yet part of her was tempted, drawn to the idea of being part of something so innovative, so raw. "I'll think about it, Alex," she finally said, her voice a mix of caution and intrigue. "Let me sleep on it, okay?" Alex nodded, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes, but he smiled, accepting her need to consider his proposal carefully. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the house changed subtly as Alex's proposed project took shape. The basement, once a casual space for artistic endeavours, transformed into something resembling a professional studio. Alex busied himself with arranging lighting and setting up different backdrops. Each backdrop was a stark canvas, waiting to evoke and capture a different emotion. Maria watched this transformation with a mix of admiration and trepidation. She had agreed to participate in Alex's project, albeit hesitantly. Her mind was awash with conflicting emotions, pride in his ambition and anxiety about the undefined boundaries of their new interactions. "This will really help bring my art to life, Maria." "I can't thank you enough for agreeing to do this," Alex had said, his enthusiasm palpable. He scheduled their sessions with meticulous care, considering the natural light that filtered through the small basement windows. "We'll start in the morning when the light is just right," Alex explained, pointing to the setup he had arranged. He had thought of everything, it seemed, from the placement of the easel to the pathway of the sun across the sky. Maria found herself caught up in his excitement, her initial reservations overshadowed by the energy Alex exuded. Yet at night doubts crept into her thoughts. She lay awake, pondering the implications of their undertaking. What emotions would Alex seek to draw from her? How deep would they go, and how would these sessions affect the fabric of their relationship? The day before they were to begin, Alex went over the plan once again with Maria over breakfast. "We'll start with simpler emotions like joy and surprise," he said, spreading a diagram of facial expressions across the kitchen table. "It'll be easy, just like our regular sessions, but with a bit more intensity." Maria nodded, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug for comfort. "And if it becomes too much?" she ventured, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex met her gaze, his expression earnest. "We stop. No questions asked. This is supposed to be a positive experience for both of us, Maria. I promise." Reassured yet still nervous, Maria spent the rest of the day helping Alex finalize the studio. They tested the lighting, adjusted the backdrops, and even did a few test shots with the camera Alex had set up to document the process. The excitement in Alex's eyes was infectious, and Maria found herself smiling despite her nerves. That evening, as she prepared her outfit for the next day, a simple, solid-coloured dress that wouldn't distract from the expressions she was to portray, Maria felt a burgeoning sense of role. She was no longer just Alex's stepmother. She was about to become a vital part of his artistic vision. This thought was both exhilarating and daunting. As she laid out the dress, her mind replayed Alex's assurances, and she focused on the trust that had grown between them. Tomorrow would be a beginning, she realized, of something new, something profound. The morning sun spilled gently into the basement, casting a soft glow over everything. As Maria stepped in, her eyes took a moment to adjust to the change from the bright kitchen to the dimly lit studio. She could see Alex already there, adjusting the last of the equipment, his movements precise and focused. "Good morning," she greeted him, her voice echoing slightly in the quiet space. Alex looked up and smiled, his eyes bright with excitement. "Morning, Maria. Ready to start?" She nodded, feeling the flutter of nerves in her stomach as she approached the chair he had set up for her. It was positioned centrally with a large canvas behind it, providing a neutral background. The camera was off to the side, aimed directly at the chair. "Let's start with something easy," Alex suggested, his tone soothing. "How about joy? Think about a happy memory, something that really makes you smile." Maria took a deep breath and closed her eyes, summoning a cherished memory of a family holiday from years ago. She could hear the laughter, feel the warmth of the sun on her face, and she smiled naturally. "Perfect, just like that," Alex encouraged, observing her expression intently as he began to sketch rapidly. Maria held the smile, feeling a sense of pride in helping Alex with his project. But as the minutes ticked by, her smile began to wane, fatigue tugging at the corners of her lips. "Let's shift to surprise," Alex directed, noting the change in her demeanour. He moved closer, his presence suddenly more pronounced. "I'm going to surprise you to elicit a genuine reaction." Maria's eyes flickered with a mix of curiosity and caution. Before she could ask how, Alex reached out and touched her shoulder, a quick, unexpected gesture. She flinched slightly, surprised not just by the contact but by the intensity of his touch. "Got it," Alex said, a triumphant note in his voice as he captured her startled look. Maria felt a twinge of discomfort, realizing how personal this session was becoming. Yet she dismissed it, attributing her reaction to the naturalness of the project. The session continued, with Alex guiding her through various emotions. Happiness, sadness, and then, unexpectedly, he said, "Now let's try desire." Maria's eyes widened, a chill running down her spine. "Desire," she repeated, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Yes, think about something or someone you desire. Let that feeling show," Alex explained, his gaze intense, piercing. Maria paused, her mind racing. The request felt far too intimate, crossing a boundary she hadn't anticipated. She tried to think of something neutral, but the knowledge of Alex's eyes on her, waiting for her to display desire, was unnerving. As she hesitated, Alex stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It's just an emotion, Maria. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but it was too much." Maria stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I need a break," she announced, her voice firm, louder than she intended. Alex looked taken aback, but nodded slowly. "Of course," he said, watching as she walked briskly away from the chair, from the camera, and from his intrusive gaze that suddenly seemed to see too much. She needed space, a moment to collect herself and reassess the boundaries of their project, and their relationship. Maria paused at the doorway, the morning light casting a long shadow behind her. "Alex, we need to revisit what happened yesterday," she began, her voice firm yet clear. "I've thought a lot about it, and we need to make some things clear if we're going to continue." Alex put down his paintbrush, his expression sober, recognizing the seriousness of the moment. "I understand, and I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he replied, his voice reflecting genuine remorse. "It's not just about being uncomfortable," Maria continued, her tone measured but assertive. "It's about respect and understanding the limits of our relationship. What you asked of me to express desire, it went too far. It crossed a line that shouldn't have been crossed." Alex nodded, his eyes not leaving hers, acknowledging her feelings. "You're right. I pushed too hard and it was inappropriate. I let my enthusiasm for the project blind me to the impact it could have on you and us." Maria took a step into the room, her resolve strengthening. "I appreciate your apology, but we need to talk about how we can prevent this from happening again. I want to support you and be part of your art, but not at the cost of our personal boundaries." "I agree. I promise to keep our interactions professional from now on. No more pushing into personal emotions or anything that makes you feel this way," Alex assured her, his voice earnest. "I'm glad to hear that. And I think it might help if we outline specific themes or emotions beforehand, so we both know what to expect," Maria suggested, hoping to build a framework that would safeguard their future interactions. "That sounds like a good plan," Alex responded, relieved by her willingness to find a solution. "I'll write up some ideas and run them by you first. We can decide together what feels right for both of us." Maria nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. "Thank you, Alex. It's important we keep this dialogue open, not just for the sake of the project, but for our relationship too." As they finalized their conversation, Maria felt a renewed sense of confidence in their ability to navigate this complex dynamic. She was reassured by Alex's response and his readiness to respect her boundaries. They agreed to take a short break from the project to allow some time for reflection and to ensure they were both comfortable continuing. In the days that followed, Alex kept to his word. He was more conscientious about the themes he proposed, always ensuring they were within the comfortable range they had agreed upon. Maria appreciated this change, feeling more secure and respected in their creative partnership. As they resumed their work, the studio once again became a place of collaboration and mutual respect. Their relationship strengthened, supported by the clear boundaries and open communication they had established. Maria found herself enjoying the creative process once again, buoyed by the knowledge that her feelings were valued and prioritized. After taking a few moments to herself outside, the cool air helping to calm her nerves, Maria returned to the basement. She found Alex quietly cleaning up, his back to her, as she descended the stairs. "Alex," she began, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her, "we need to talk about the boundaries of this project." Alex turned to face her, his expression a mixture of concern and confusion. "I'm sorry if I pushed too far," he admitted, setting down the paintbrush he had been cleaning. "I got caught up in the art and didn't consider how you might feel." Maria nodded, appreciating his apology but knowing they needed to address more. "This project meant a lot to me because it was something we were doing together," she explained. "But today, something changed. It felt like you were asking for more than I could give." "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," Alex said, his tone sincere. "I just thought that pushing the emotional boundaries could bring out a stronger art piece. I see now that I didn't think about how it would affect you personally." Maria took a deep breath, searching for the right words to convey her feelings without causing further strain. Art is about expression, but it's also about respect. If we're going to continue, we need clear lines about what is and isn't acceptable. I'm happy to be part of your creative process, but not at the expense of my comfort." Alex listened, nodding slowly as he absorbed her words. "You're right. I let the artist in me override the stepson who cares about you. I promise to keep our relationship in mind first and foremost from now on." Relieved by his understanding, Maria felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "Thank you, Alex. Let's set some ground rules for our sessions. Maybe no more delving into such personal emotions," she suggested, hoping to find a middle ground. Alex agreed immediately, relieved to find a solution that would allow them to continue working together. "Absolutely, we'll keep it professional, just emotions that we're both comfortable exploring." With the air cleared and new boundaries set, they decided to end the day's session early to give both of them time to reflect on their discussion. As Maria left the studio, she felt more confident in their relationship, both relieved at the resolution and optimistic about what their future sessions would hold. That evening, Maria reflected on the day's events, realizing how important it was to maintain open communication, especially in relationships with inherent power dynamics like theirs. She felt proud of how they handled the situation, turning a potentially damaging experience into an opportunity for growth and understanding. The next morning, Maria entered the studio with renewed enthusiasm, ready to continue their collaboration within the agreed boundaries. Alex greeted her with a warm, respectful smile, a clear indication that he too was committed to respecting their new framework. Together, they resumed their work, both in art and in strengthening their step-family bond, each respecting the other's limits while continuing to explore their creative partnership.